Welcome to Somewhere Over the Horizon. If I'm standing at a beach, how can I judge the distance to a ship or an offshore wind turbine? Stay tuned. There's a ship on the horizon. Can you see it? Here it is. Well, after some zooming. But just how far out is it? And if we were standing at the shoreline, would we see it? And if it was just visible, how far out would a wind turbine be? Well, that would depend on the elevation of an observer, the height of the turbine, and the curvature of the Earth. Complicated? No, it's easy. Just plug your elevation into a simple equation. First, some background. The Australian government recently announced that a marine area off the Hunter coastline of New South Wales would be reserved for the installation of offshore wind turbines. It was labelled the Hunter Declared Area, HDA. This decision generated heated debate in local communities, especially with issues involving environmental and aesthetic concerns. Turbine visibility was also a contentious issue, with wild estimates made of their distances from land. Yet, with a simple formula, these distances are easily calculated, particularly for those turbines just visible over the horizon. In addition, we'll explore a second theme that will identify some areas of marine activity which may be influenced by the HDA. So how far from my local beach is the area's border? Well, it varies from 24 kilometres at Port Stephens to 56.5 kilometres at Norah Head. If you're standing at the shoreline, then the distance to the horizon is given by 3.57 times the square root of your eye level height. And if you can just see the top of an offshore wind turbine, then the distance between you and it is simply a combination of the two equations. So, for example, for a person of height 170 centimetres standing at the shoreline, the horizon would be about 4.7 kilometres away. And if that person could just see the top of a wind turbine of height 200 metres, then the line of sight distance between them is about 55 kilometres. Here, a wind turbine is 60 kilometres from the shoreline, and its height is being varied from 150 metres to 250 metres. Notice the line of sight elevation of a land-based observer changing in response. So on to the second theme. Obviously, the HDA will affect existing marine activity. But in what way? The concentration of marine traffic around Newcastle Port varies greatly in space and time. However, the following snapshots do suggest there are general patterns in vessel concentration, knowledge of which will be helpful in the incorporation of the wind farm. In this screenshot, the majority of vessels are bulk carriers either queuing for access to the coal loading facilities at the Port of Newcastle or departing with coal destined for the Northern Hemisphere. A familiar sight along the coastline, vessels queuing for entry to Newcastle Port. Here we have a combination of a vessel queue close to the coastline and in the proposed HDA, a collection of vessels arriving or departing. Notice that north of the HDA there are two designated areas. The screenshots show that the HDA will alter the passage and anchorage of vessels arriving and departing, and increase the concentration of vessels queuing for access to the port. As noted in screenshot number 3, there are two designated areas north of the HDA, so let's have a closer look at them. Two zones form the Hunter Marine Park. Currently, commercial shipping is permitted in both zones, while other activities such as commercial fishing require authorisation. As you can see, the HDA adjoins the park's southern border and its size is 30% of the park's area. The HDA is likely to funnel marine traffic through the western zone of the park. Globally, there doesn't appear to be any record of offshore wind farms adjacent to a marine park, so any environmental risk to the park will need researching. But on the other hand, there's already evidence that offshore structures, such as oil and gas rigs and Northern Hemisphere offshore wind turbines, can act as artificial reefs and attract marine life. In conclusion, the offshore wind farm will have a significant bearing on the passage of the coal-laden bulk carriers around Newcastle Port, and although the marine park will see additional marine traffic, the HDA may have an indirect positive effect in creating artificial reefs. Thank you for viewing this video. I hope it's been informative.